What are the scariest things about retirement? Hey folks, thanks for joining us. Welcome to Retirement Roadmap with MasterPlan Retirement Consultants. My name is Evan. With me as always, retirement planner Mark Fricks. Today we're going to discuss the scariest things about retirement, things that keep people from facing their retirement plan, putting off planning, maybe even keeping folks from retiring when they may be able to. Mark, how big of a factor does fear play into a retirement planning?
First of all, is this like an early Halloween show?
We're about halfway there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So really, the folks that we talk to, the folks that we meet with, that's some of the first things that we ask is what worries you, what scares you, what bothers you about retirement, and I think it's very important that we touch on those items because these are real. These are very common. Don't feel like you're the only one that's worried about this particular thing or that particular thing, but also we may bring up some things that you really hadn't thought about worrying about. So I don't know if that's good or bad, but there are solutions. And so you can't solve something until you face it and take a look at it and get to work on it. So that's what I think today's show is going to be really great, powerful, all that kind of good stuff.
One of the first things we do with new folks who walk into the office is discuss hopes, dreams, fears, next 6 months, 2 years, 5 years, and beyond. A lot of times we find that folks haven't really discussed them or thought about them with themselves or with their spouses.
Well, and we also find that people that we don't work with, so this would be maybe a friend from church or a neighbor or whatever, and you start talking about this and then they start talking about, I'm retiring or I have retired, and it's like they ignored all of it. It's like they just turned on a switch. You've mentioned this before, just turn on a switch and just take off, head through retirement and hoping it all works out, and hopefully it does. But there's so many things you can do to maximize the efficiency of your retirement assets and other things related to make sure that these issues, if they do arise, and hey, we've been in a business now for 15 years. Happy celebration coming up for us here shortly. But so we've seen a lot, and even before that, I've been an advisor for 15 years before that. And so you see a lot of the common reoccurrences of the problems, but now we're beginning to see as our clients age that they are coming to fruition, some of them. And we're seeing that, hey, these tools are working. These tools are giving them peace of mind. And because we meet with our clients once or twice a year, we don't see them for a year or so, and then you can really see a change in their aging and things they're doing and how they're evolving into retirement. So without getting too deep in the woods, this is a real subject. I hope this is helpful. In fact, I know to be helpful, and don't ignore it. I think that's the whole point.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, number one, you alluded to it a little bit. Running out of money. I mean, that's the big one in retirement planning. One of the most common and legitimate fears is running out of money during retirement. If you haven't saved enough, or if unexpected expenses arise, or maybe even mismanaging your withdrawals, the thought of not having enough funds to last through your retirement years is terrifying. This fear is particularly strong with longer life expectancies, inflation, rising healthcare costs, tariffs, you name it. There's a lot going on right now.
There really is, and I always relate this back to my grandfather and his retirement. I was probably 10 years old when he retired, so I can remember visiting my grandparents outside of Rome, Georgia. He worked for a mill, and he worked there for 30-something years. He had a pension, a good solid pension. He had Social Security. He wasn't in the market. Most people weren't in the market until the 401k came out and the IRA. And so his money was in CDs and savings. His house was paid for, and he lived about 7 years. And so none of these things came into being. It was just, you just kind of went into retirement and hoped you lived long enough to enjoy it. And so today is so different. Like you said, we're living much longer. Because we're living longer, we have more health issues. And the fact that, again, most pensions are gone, and we have a lot of federal workers that we work with and listen to us, and so that they have a great pension program, but most of us don't have that. And so that's something that's missing as well, and we're relying more on the market. Market does what? Markets go up, markets go down, and so if you're trying to take money from a market, that's another area of worry. So it's all that coming together, almost like a perfect storm.
Another area of concern, and I mentioned it already, healthcare costs.
Yeah, so one of the screens or PowerPoint slides we use when we teach is the difference between normal inflation and the inflation of healthcare. And inflation of healthcare is about 2 to 2.5% faster
Right.
than regular inflation. And so not only that, but folks have this misconception that, hey, I'll be on Medicare, everything's taken care of. Not so fast, my friend. As an example, one of the things it doesn't cover is it doesn't cover deductibles. It covers some of them, but not a lot of them. A lot of the newer drugs coming on board are priced at full price. Those aren't covered very much. There's just a lot of cost, but I think the one cost a lot of people don't think about is the premiums for Medicare Part B.
Right.
They start this year, they're around $185 a month per person. So if you're a couple, $380 give or take, and that goes up almost every year, anywhere from 1 to 4%. And so you can see those add up over the course of a year and years. If your income is higher, that premium's higher as well. So the latest study I saw, and you can correct me if I'm a little bit off, but I think the average couple is expected to spend $335,000 in retirement on those types of costs. Am I close on that?
I was about to say the same thing. I thought it was around 300,000 plus. So that sounds.
And this is not including long-term care cost here. This is strictly medical costs. I've got my parents that are in their 90s. And they're at the doctor every week, and they're paying out-of-pocket co-pays and deductibles and things like that as well. And it's just, if they're not at the doctor that week, it's a good week, type of thing. But it's living longer, and then you get into things like Alzheimer's and things like that. That creates a whole nother issue that has exploded. And so I'm not sure if we're going to get into long-term care separately, but certainly healthcare costs are. You've got to plan for those.
Absolutely. And it's difficult too. You can't predict how much healthcare you're going to need in retirement, or how long you're going to live. We'll talk about longevity risk as well.
Yep.
But that brings us to fear number 3, deteriorating health. Aging brings health challenges. It just does. And the fear of facing serious health issues or physical decline without the support of work colleagues or health insurance coverage, that's overwhelming for folks. The potential for chronic conditions, especially loss of mobility, requiring assisted living, that can create anxiety about the future.
Yeah, I think I'm going to start keeping track of how many of our clients have had a knee replacement, a hip replacement, a shoulder replacement. It's almost automatic in your 60s or 70s, depending on your job, but also just depending on your lifestyle, maybe if you played football younger or whatever. But this is almost a common occurrence now. How many clients will tell me, oh, I've had both knees replaced, I'm so glad I did, but the cost of that is tremendous. Now, out of their pocket, probably not a huge amount, but again, it continues adding up, and they have therapy. Again, I'm not trying to scare people or depress people or anything like that. I want us to be aware so we can plan for this type of thing. And we see our clients over the years as they come in, as they deteriorate, as they age, and it's just part of life. We're living longer, but it's certainly something that has to be planned for.
I've said this in a recent episode as well, but on this topic, healthy living is a good financial investment.
That's a good point. Yeah, you did talk about it a few episodes ago about taking care of yourself, exercise, stretching, the right diet, all of this, keeping mentally active as well can make a huge difference. And a lot of our clients, that retire, they have time. So they'll start going to the gym and things like that. Some of the Advantage programs will pay for a gym membership. So find something like that. I know it's hard when I quit exercising to get back into it, but it's so important.
Absolutely.
It really is. Or play pickleball.
Yeah, that's blown up. Absolutely.
That's possibility, right?
Fear number 4, loss of identity. Now, many people associate their identity with their careers, especially in our Western society. That's culturally how we introduce ourselves most of the time in conversations. So when retirement hits, it's not only the daily work routine that changes, but also the loss of purpose, sense of self. The idea of no longer being that person who contributed to the workforce can lead to feelings of depression, anxiety, things like that.
Yeah, if you've been saying for 30-something years, I'm an engineer or I'm a tech IT person or whatever, and all of a sudden you walk up and they say, what do you do? I'm retired. That doesn't really describe anything about you as opposed to my job. Now, my job is not my entire life. It doesn't tell you everything about me, but it's kind of a starting point and it lets me know, oh, so you're in this field, you must have this education or be doing that or whatever. But it's hard for me to imagine saying I'm retired. And I've told my clients I don't really plan on ever retiring until I get chased off or don't know where I'm at or something like that. But I love what I do. But it is a big part of who I am. And I spend a lot of time each week, just like Evan, working with folks and doing what we do and learning something new every day, which keeps our mind active as well. And so it's hard for me to imagine that. Now, some people are very proud to say, I'm retired. But I bet they come back around to saying, well, what did you used to do? And it kind of comes back to that. I've heard that many times as well. So I think that's a great point. I really do.
Well, the next is related as well, from leaving an employer in a social circle. That's social isolation. Without the built-in social interaction of work, retirees feel lonely or disconnected. The fear of losing social ties, becoming isolated, is a real concern for many. The loss of coworkers as daily companions, along with friends or family members who are still working, can leave people feeling like they have fewer folks to rely on. And it's true. Our communities have become more and more limited to our employment and churches, things like that. But those are not built in necessarily. You have to go out and be active in those communities.
Yeah, and Evan, that's really changed since COVID as well.
Right.
Now more people are working at home, and so there's less of that. So I don't know what the effect of that is, and we may not know the effect for a while. But hopefully people have learned to be involved in other places if you are working at home most of the time. But also, I had this discussion with someone the other day and started reading up on it. Social gatherings have become less and less.
Yeah.
Like a lot of our clients, either their friends have passed away or maybe even they've passed away. A lot of people aren't doing funerals anymore. They're doing maybe just 6 or 8 or family members around a grave or whatever, as opposed to 200 people in a church or something. Even reunions. I'm seeing less and less high school and college reunions happening. It's almost like people are less desiring to get together with other folks, and I'm not sure if that's because it became a habit.
Yeah.
Maybe, I don't know. That'd make for a great theme paper or term paper or something. But that's happening as well. So I think you have to try even harder in retirement to get involved. And I have a lot of my clients and your clients tell us about volunteering. I think that's a great thing because you do get that gratification, or doing something where you make a little bit of money but still stay involved in more than one thing. I think it needs to be more than just one activity, whether it be your neighborhood. Some of these senior neighborhoods, they all become a group. I was just talking to a couple this morning, and they sit on their front porch and just have neighbors walk back and forth, stop by, have a glass of wine with them, chat, what's going on. Just being social, and especially if you're single, if you're widowed or divorced and retired, that can be almost dangerous, and you really need to make a conscious effort to get out there. So I do want to remind you real quickly of our website. Yes, just like most folks, we have a website, but it's more of a resource. It is a retirement resource. I hope you'll visit it, bookmark it, because there's always something new. MasterPlanRetire.com. There are guides, there are checklists about retirement. There is information about upcoming classes, both in person, face-to-face, but also video, Zoom oriented type of thing. But also there's a little button that says schedule a meeting, and you say, well, what's that for? Well, we do offer a complimentary consultation. It starts with a chat, 30 minutes. Again, what Evan mentioned earlier, your thoughts, your fears, your goals. Some people have never thought about them before. And then based on that conversation, we will run a series of reports, anywhere from 6 to 9 reports to see where you're at now and how to get you where you want to be. And then we stress test it. What happens if taxes go up? What happens if your spouse predeceases you? All of these different categories, because if you don't, again, confront the problem, you can't have a solution for the problem. So we want to find out where that wound is, where that where that high blood pressure is, where that high cholesterol is, and treat it and have a plan for it. So again, MasterPlanRetire.com, or give us a call at 770-980-9262, option 2, if you can remember that, or there is a nice phone tree that will guide you, but that will give you a chance as well to schedule something with one of us.
Absolutely. The previous 2 points, as well as this one, all circle around not having purpose or lacking purpose in one's life. This next fear is just right out of that same topic. It's boredom, or more importantly, lack of fulfillment. If you haven't planned your time carefully, retirement can quickly become monotonous. You might fear becoming bored, losing the motivation to stay active. We talked about health. Not having anything meaningful to do, period, something to get you out of bed in the morning. Many people also worry they won't find new hobbies or passions to replace the ones that work used to provide. And we know when we don't have purpose, so many of these things are affected by something that simple: your social circle, your depression, your health, physical and emotional. Lack of fulfillment.
And some of our clients we do see deteriorate quicker than others, and I think these are the clients that aren't doing what we're talking about today. I mean, we can actually see over the course after their retirement, and you've heard this before, that many folks pass away after retirement. There's a reason for that. It's not because they retired, it's because they didn't enter retirement with these thoughts in mind. So don't think I can't retire because I'm going to pass away. Just make sure that you shift and transition into that new phase appropriately, and make sure that these things we've talked about today, that you've taken into heart and really done something about them.
So previously, the very first fear we discussed was running out of money. Now, this next fear is a very specific way of running out of money. That's outliving your savings, which is also known as longevity risk.
Yes, and this is increasing every year, and as it increases, it not only, and of course now we're talking, if you're a couple, one of you is probably going to live to age 85 or 90, right? Maybe both of you, like, again, my parents. But this is increasing almost every year. And not only are we having to have more years of money, but inflation always outpaces Social Security. It always outpaces pensions. So we're falling further and further behind, plus the healthcare costs increasing. All of this coming together, and the fact the longer you live, the more likely you are to have additional health issues. So, sometimes our clients jokingly say, I'm going to live to age 85, and then, I'm going to put a pillow over my face or something, and that's horrible, but
buy a motorcycle.
Something like that, or I don't know. Let's don't get into that today. But they say jokingly, but they really they're scared of aging. And again, if you've got this other stuff going on and you've got a circle of friends, then it does help all of this. Even when you have bad health, if you've got a neighbor that'll come by and check on you, because you've created this social circle. They care about each other. You care about them. You take them a meal if they need it. All of this kind of circles around. Sometimes it's a church organization or other volunteer organization where you become close to people that care about you. And I think, again, that just comes back to all of this. But I think Evan and I have a very unique perspective on this, because we are seeing these folks every year to 6 months, and we see some of them progressing much quicker than others.
The next fear is burdening family. So another common fear is becoming a financial burden on your children or other family members. You might worry about needing care or assistance in your later years, especially if you don't have long-term care insurance or the financial means to support your needs.
Yeah, so a lot of our clients will make it very clear, I do not want to be a burden on my children. I want them to enjoy their lives. They're raising children. By the time I pass away, they may be close to retirement anyway. I don't want to be a burden. Now, some of them have a plan. They'll say, hey, we've already talked to my daughter. They have an in-law suite in the basement. They want us to come. They want us to be with the grandkids, all that kind of stuff. But the problem is if you get to a health point to where they're having to actually take care of you on a daily basis or something like that, that can be really difficult, because as we've seen before, a caregiver, the stress of taking care of a loved one can actually reduce your lifetime, your life expectancy. And so, again, if it's a plan, that's great, but just be careful with this, whether it be long-term care tools that we use that can actually double your income if you have a long-term care need, whether it be some other tools we use to make sure those are covered. Even if you do end up wanting to move in, or the kids want you to move in, you still want to be able to bring in outside help so that they are not, hey, what if they've got kids in college and maybe a kid in high school and they're having to help take care of you? To me, that's not fair. I would not want to do that to my children, for sure. So I want to try to make sure I've got something lined up. But it's a real problem and issue, and it's not going to go away.
Yeah. The next fear is not being able to enjoy retirement. So some retirees feel that despite saving for years, they won't be able to live the life they envisioned during retirement. This could be due to a lot of things we already discussed: unexpected health issues, financial setbacks, or also maybe just realizing retirement isn't as fulfilling as they had hoped. On the financial aspect, one thing that you should do as soon as possible is set up an income plan. That way you know where your income's coming from, and you can determine, okay, what actually is my quality of life quotient? Where am I on what I need and how much money I have and how far it can take me?
Yeah, I can't tell you how many times that I'll be meeting with a client and I'll have to give them permission to spend money.
Yeah.
Because we have a plan. They're not used to having a plan like this, because when you're working, you could lose your job or something like that. But in retirement, we set up guaranteed income flows. And so those aren't going away. So this other money that's designed just to be there, have permission to use it, and we talk about that. And I had somebody just the other day, and they're fine. They have a great income plan. They have great income, guaranteed income sources. They're not going away. If one of them passes away, they continue on. So why not enjoy some of that money you worked so long for? Mm-hmm. Take that trip to Europe. Take that cross-country RV trip. Buy that Porsche. I don't know, whatever it might be. But seriously, and we talk about that, and I try to give them permission because, a lot of the folks we work with have done a good job of saving. Why? How? They've been diligent. So now all of a sudden for them to start spending money is almost against their nature. And so we try to give them permission to do that and how to do it and where to take it from.
Right. The next fear, and we're experiencing this right now: market volatility and economic uncertainty.
Yeah, so I saw a great article the other day. It talked about the history of the stock market and how it showed we basically had I think it was every bear market or correction we had, they occurred like every 3 to 7 years, okay? The average one only lasted 9 months. Mm-hmm. And so you just have to kind of stick with it. That's why we have different, what we call buckets of money. Some are going to be available that have a protected principle. So if the market's down, that's where you go for money. The other ones are going to be up and down at different times, but they try to work separately. One's up in a good market, one's up in a bad market or whatever, to make sure that there's always something available because we're retirement planners and consultants, and we're able to really make sure that our clients are never at a disadvantage, because you don't want to be down 20% when you're retired. We use a lot of different tools, and so we don't get too many phone calls when the markets are bad. Out of our hundreds of clients, I've probably talked to 3 or 4 folks, and even then they were like, I know I'm okay. I just want to hear your voice, and know that we're prepared for this. And I said, yes, because of this, that, and the other. And so it's a different way of looking at money. If I'm 35, I let it run. Mm-hmm. But if I'm in my 50s or 60s or closer to retirement, you want to be set up appropriately for retirement, not for growth. Totally different plan.
Absolutely. And everything we've discussed today are things that we do have conversations with our clients about, and they're ongoing conversations, because just as life has different phases, even retirement has different phases, beginning, middle, and pre-retirement, and your goals, your dreams, your fears, they'll change throughout that process.
So often they change. We'll have a client come in and it's all set up. They've been with us for 5 years, and all of a sudden, we've decided we want to move to Costa Rica. They had never talked about it before. Or we've decided, or this has happened, or now we have to raise a grandchild. There's so many things that can change, which is why our plans are definitely flexible. Mm-hmm. So really appreciate you guys being with us today. I hope you enjoyed this episode. There's more listed on the website, masterplanretire.com. But until we see each other again, remember, plan well and prosper. Take care.